Grand Rising, everyone. This is Ron. Saturday, August the 30th. Uh, have 10:04 a.m. and we'll go ahead and get started. Uh, I love where we are. I was reflecting on our journey the other day. I remember when we were in different physical locations having traditional Bible studies, and that was very, very good itself as far as the beginning of us searching for truth. And I remember talking to pastor about how different things were because we could study a scripture in Colombia and come back to Gaffney and study the same scripture and it would sound different. It would be different. And I didn't know what made that happen. Uh, and didn't quite understand it, and I'm gaining some understanding of that now. But it's been a wonderful journey. And when we started all this off, we were sort of still into religion very heavily, but we were very sincere because that's all we knew. And if you look at the steps in the journey that this has taken where we are now, I did not see this, but it is a beautiful place to be. Uh, we uh, have good morning. I was just talking about the journey, Pastor, where we are and what this has looked like and where we are now, and being very appreciative of how we got here. Uh, we something was introduced on last week that I was unfamiliar with. I've never heard of their records until Pastor mentioned it maybe the week prior, but it still just kind of flew by me. I didn't have a chance to ask questions about it, and so where we are now and how all of this fits together to me is beautifully done. And I wanted to, I'm excited this morning about where we are and talking about this, but I want to talk about the Akashic records a little deeper and a little deeper detail. And very easy for this to get off on an academic level, right? Because it's designed that way that it can go either way. I listened to a lot of in a video that Pastor sent out to the teachers. I listened to a lot of them talking about this scientist and that scientist, and the beauty of that is if science is true and science is searching for answers of truth, they will find what they are looking for as well. But I'm wanting to look at this from a totally spiritual level because that's where we are. And I wanted to what I was if she doesn't mind me asking her because I want somebody to give an overview of what the Akashic records are and why they think that is valuable and what that looks like to you. And Barb said something this week. She said this video explains how much, so much about why my emotion, I have certain emotions, feelings, and memories. And I just wanted her to talk about that and elaborate a little bit and hopefully give us an understanding because it's not something you can define. It's something you have to experience. And uh, and after her, anybody else that wants to look at this, please feel free. But Barb, do you mind?
Grand Rising, everyone. I will share what it is that I understand because
Okay.
I too, Ron, had not heard about the Akashic records until when you heard about it. But having read about it, it resonated so much with things that I've been experiencing all my life, off and on. You know, even with what I call tornado dreams and understanding that that was a message, and uh,
Hmm.
uh, even understanding that when I experienced um, my my parents, even after their death, their presence, things like that. Or even when there's so much that I perceive that relates to countries like Scotland or some other country that resonate with me so much, and I've wondered if I've had past lives there or something. So the Akashic records, as I understand it, are simply memory banks in a sense, spiritual memory bank,
Mm-hmm.
a spiritual memory bank that relates to everything everyone has experienced, every perceived bad thing, every perceived good thing. It doesn't matter how you label it, because as it relates to the records, they are simply remembrances of the spiritual journey. And so, when I also saw the video, I thought about our conversation about the ancestors and how they're there to guide us. Whether the record is the Akashic records, as I understand them, are sort of like those things that are brought back to our memory of, okay, this was at an earlier time, and this is an experience that you had, that there's still work to be done on it. And so you get the guide to share, okay, what it is you need to continue to work on. And it also explains why we say there really isn't any bad experience.
Yeah.
We've labeled stuff bad for us. We might label what's happening right now in the world bad for some people, and we've already all had personal things that happen in our lives that we might have perceived as bad, experiences with death of loved ones, experiences with accidents, injuries, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you put it in the perspective of, okay, what is this teaching us? And that's what we've always said. What is this experience teaching us? What is it showing me that I need to pay attention to, so that I don't have to learn that particular lesson again? I can move to the next one. And so those are the things that the memories that were brought back to me when I read about the Akashic records. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate your sharing. You're right. You made me think about it. It also made me think about some things, some dreams that I've had, or thoughts that I've had, and kind of things in perspective. Things make sense a little bit better. Does anyone else want to talk about an overview as to what? And then I got some specific questions I want to bring up, but anyone have any uh, eh, talk about their experiences? What I'm hoping to do, those of us who saw have had the tape, but I want everyone else to get to experience, to feel the vibration of what this is. 'Cause it is there for all of us. And I think we've all experienced it without our knowledge of what we were experiencing. And hopefully we can get on the same page just by a brief discussion of it.
Yeah, Grand Rising, everyone. This is GC. When we got on the call, I was able to connect spiritually with a family member who mentioned about her birthday. She mentioned about being able to bear witness to the hummingbird, you know what I mean, that appeared in her presence. This, is how our ancestors, were able to share what we are now experiencing in ways that have been passed down from generation to generation. When we think about all forms of life, whether it's the birds, the sun, the moon, the stars, it all have its reference when we talk about the Akashic records, because it talks about the importance of universal records. It talks about like it being an encyclopedia where there's information that we have received that has been passed down, but we're able to experience it in our own means of meditation, or what does that mean to us? And so, I was just, again, um, excited to hear that
Mhm.
people are, we are experiencing these things, but we just got to turn the light on, to be able to appreciate how it's teaching us and how we are receiving it. So I think that's how I see it, of something that was an experience this morning, not something in a book, but something
Right.
she experienced that she shared with us to make us appreciate our ancestors, to make us appreciate, the Akashic records. I'm done.
In the fullness of the journey, thank you, George. In the fullness of the journey, why do you think we're experiencing this at this time? Is that a fair question?
I believe it is,
Yeah.
and I believe it's like the axiom: when the student is ready, the teacher appears. All of
Yeah.
this has always been accessible to us. We just didn't know it,
Right.
or we just didn't know how to access it, or we just didn't know. We're so the human part of us wants to label everything and identify it, but there are some things that you just have to know and not be able to put a specific label on it. You just have to. It resonates, and you just know it from the core of your being. And this is one of those things. And we had to be in a position to understand what it was we were, quote unquote, knowing. Otherwise, we would dismiss it or wouldn't understand it, or downplay it. But now is the time for us to really understand and know this, because we need this for the times that we are living in. Thanks.
Thank you. Um,
I can add something to that too.
yes, sir.
Hey everyone. Um, just to uh, remark on a couple things. Yes, there are many things that I think we as our group in particular are becoming more aware of, because it's part of the sort of great spectrum of knowledge that we need to be aware of, because it is all part of the spiritual lineage that we are learning to uncover within ourselves. And that includes the understanding of the Kemetic or African spirituality that has been hidden from us for so long. And many of these concepts that may be new to some of us are very old, of course, but they are, in many cases, sort of foundational metaphysical and spiritual concepts that are present in some form amongst all spiritual traditions, all mystical and metaphysical traditions. And the Akashic Records is one such concept. And before I get more into that, Barbara, you said having tornado dreams. I've had tornado dreams. Generally, they are the result of a certain degree of mental and emotional sort of chaoticness being represented as a giant tornado that I'm running away from. But I just think that is and I've talked to friends who've had similar dreams like that. But I think that is an example of one such symbolic way a particular experience is being presented to our subconscious. Well, our subconscious is presenting that symbolic uh, experience to us in the form of a dream, and it is always generally an indicator of something that we need to deal with and recognize. But as for our sort of instinctive ability to remember things that may have occurred in other lifetimes that we don't consciously remember, that we may experience in dreams, or that may resonate with us very strongly, even if we can't consciously attach, intellectually a memory to it. Those are all part of the process of the unfolding and the awakening of those sort of deep places in consciousness, and the deep parts of ourselves that we are not usually consciously aware of, simply because we have, for whatever, not known that we have the ability to awaken that awareness within ourselves, etc. But it's all part of the process of unfolding our awareness so that it becomes aware of what it is actually, or that we become aware of what we are actually connected to. And the ability to sort of read and interface with what the Akashic records are is part of the metaphysical and spiritual abilities that we all possess. Though I will say there is some distinction between the sort of Akashic records proper and the various kinds of experiences of remembering things, etc., that we can have. Although I do believe they are related, because the Akashic records is exactly that. It is the storehouse of memory. It is the storehouse of the ripples upon the surface of the waters of noon, wherein all events, thoughts, etc., can leave their impression. So really being able to read the Akashic records proper, in sort of a more conscious way requires a great deal of spiritual attainment, concentration, and practice, and advancement along the line of your own evolving experience. Though we do have impressions of various things that may come through in the form of dreams, etc. But it is all related. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Nick. And you mentioned the waters of noon, and I brought that up with the teachers. I got excited when I heard this video, uh, because it the first thing that hit me is seeing everything linked together. It kind of brought together everything that we've talked about, and I could see it all being one, or feeding from the other. It almost reminded me of the four rivers that started as one river in Eden and branched out to four. Uh, they have in their four branches, they may have different functions or showing different parts of their energy field, but in reality, they all come from the same source. And that is that is something that just had me excited, or still does. But thank you. Anyone else? Anything that any questions, or anything you want to talk about as far as discussing this? What have you guys experienced watching the video? Those of you who have seen it.
I want to wait till some other people speak, and then I'll share what I experienced.
Okay. And keep in mind when you discuss it, everybody hasn't seen the video, and I don't want them to feel left out. It isn't an academic thing or a knowledgeable thing. It's something that we're hoping that everybody can experience, can be in rhythm with. Does this remind you of something that you have felt, experienced in some of these discussions we've had over the years, or in your lifetime? Because as I said from the onset, this is something we've all experienced before. We just didn't have a name for it, and we dismissed it because we didn't know what it was, for the most part anyway. But anyone else?
Well, Ron,
Yes, ma'am.
just quickly, the Bible kind of alludes to it when it talks
Okay.
about everything being written in the Lamb's Book of Life.
Hmm.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
But we thought that was something that nobody had access to except God. So it anyway, my point is the Bible does allude to it. We just kind of didn't think about it really.
And it does sort of reference different type of the Hebrews or the Islamic world sort of having their own name for this, but being familiar with it in their own way. So yeah, that's a good observation. I'm gonna go back and look at that. Anyone else?
Yeah, just first of all, for those who didn't see the video, it's just an explanation of the video we were just sending back and forth on a text message. It is a sort of basic breakdown of what the Akashic records are. And without well, they are the storehouse of all recorded events, thoughts, etc., things that take place within the sphere of creation. And it is as I stated, something that we have the ability to interface with and read in a kind of a literal way in some cases, but it's the Akashic records as a distinct metaphysical phenomenon and concept are, how shall I say, difficult to read, requiring a fair amount of advancement along your own spiritual path of evolution. Though, as I said, we do get impressions and all kinds of, related phenomena as we grow and experience whatever it is we experience as we unfold our own capacity to become more aware of the true nature of who and what we are. Anyway, that was the video. It's just the explanation of what it is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? The reason I believe that we did not pay much attention to the experience is because we called it intuition.
Yeah.
And now that we are where we are in our understandings, it tells, at least I experienced a lot from it. One of the things it showed me was what free will is. Out of all the things, that's one of the things that, well, first things I saw, and that is free will is what like your fate is determined by your desires. All of these experiences are there. But whatever your desires are, that is the catalyst that determines your fate. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I see how I didn't when I didn't think about that, but you're right. I agree with you.
Thank you, sir. We used to say things like Kathy the Weather Lady. Where did she get that from? The Akashic Records. Let me begin, if I may, at the beginning of creation, because I do believe that there is order in everything. However, before I begin, please understand, this is not a Bible study. This is a study of life. And I'm talking about everything that we do. It is not a Bible study. It is an effort to understand the sacred writings in relationship to the journey that we are on. Is that clear? Makes that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not a Bible study. beginning of creation. The creator of everything that ends off, the light of all lights, made a decision. And I want to talk in language that all of us can grasp. And I don't want to use any of the technical terms that we may use in reference to what we're talking about. Ein Sof made a decision that it wanted to bring into existence a material being with some of the attributes that it possessed. And in the process of doing that, this light of all lights, the creator who was not created, the self-existing one, determined that there would be certain aspects of this material life that was going to be aspects of the spiritual essence of its being is going to be available to those who are brought into existence in a physical manner. And just like breath is our life source, and water is our life source. Water is the life source of material animals, vegetation, etc. And when we think about it, because we breathe and because we are majority water, overwhelmingly so, everything that lives is overwhelmingly water. And when we think about it, between our breathing and the existence of water in our bodies, that is what is it? You know how colors, you start with a black color and it begins to pour the shades out of it as you go? You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Like a prism,
Yes, there you go. And
refraction, something like that.
yeah, light refraction or something. That's the connection between the unicity, rather, of the water, which is manifested spirit in the earth, and the spirit itself. You cannot live without water, and you cannot live without breathing. Does that make sense? Going somewhere with this.
Yes.
So, that being said, once the body of thought or the energy of the personality and the thoughts of the what we are calling the Akashic record, excuse me, that consciousness was developed before there was creation in terms of material creation. And with that consciousness being made available, now the Creator could bring Elohim into existence, and Elohim embodied that consciousness. And excuse me, from Elohim came the waters, and what we're referencing as the waters of noon. Of course, it speaks of the water in creation in Genesis. However, it is a story that is different than the original story was. So out of these waters comes life in the earth. And these are the waters of creativity. And now we have the waters of creativity. And this does not happen in stages. This happened like that. Now the masculine and feminine, the feminine energy is brought into being. And out of the feminine energy comes a human. Now, have you ever asked yourself this question? How did femininity bring into existence the whole of humanity? How did it do that? Because the first people on earth did not have ancestors. Are you with me? They did not have ancestors. So for 55,000 years, up to 55,000 years, there was only the Africans on the earth. The rest of the people on the earth came 55,000 years ago. And the African had these experiences continuously. And the continued experiences is the consciousness that was provided, or the consciousness that were brought into existence by Enso. And the Elohim became the all-encompassing body of that consciousness. And when humanity, when the African was brought into this earth, then the African had access. I don't like to use that word access, but was one with this consciousness. Let me put it that way. Was one with this consciousness. And this consciousness is what we talk about when we talk about our ancestors were able to communicate with the animals and with the vegetation in the earth, and they understood what plants were poisonous and what plants were medicinal. And in doing so, they were expressing the experiences that they were having with this consciousness. And for millions of years, this consciousness was the source of the Africans' understanding. And still at the same time, free will was present. Their fate was determined by their desires. And as they desired to move forward in this life, we see all the things that they brought into existence. We see the stones that built the pyramids. Everyone will know how they did it. When you have this consciousness, you can do anything. Now that the Africans is in this earth and is functioning based upon these experiences, and what happens? But the creator of everything that is also made a provision, because if the creator was going to experience Elohim in a physical form, then that could not happen unless the physical form of Elohim was able to create in its image and likeness, just like it created in its image and likeness. Makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
If there are questions as I go, please raise those questions. So it created in its image and likeness, and so must the first humans in this earth do the same thing. There was no substance in this earth for the African to use to be created in the image and likeness of itself. So fast forward to 55,000 years ago, the African began to leave Africa, but more importantly than that, before any African left that continent, the whole world was known as Akabalon, meaning that the whole world was known as a cradle of life, known as the garden of life, life source, however you want to put it. The whole world, the whole globe. So as the African moved around this earth, they were in the garden, they were still in the garden of what we call the Garden of Eve, but the Garden of Life, the Garden of Creation, of Akabalon. And as that took place, the earth began to be populated. And the changes or the evolutionary state of the humans began to change during this period of 55,000 years ago. And there had also to be something in this earth that would push the African to become the fullness of Elohim. And as a result of that, different people were brought into existence in this earth through the evolution of the African. Because the African is God, no question about it. The African is Elohim in physical form. And it began to bring into existence different people. And if different people are in the earth, then there had to be something in these different people that was not aligned totally with that of the African. Because keep in mind, you still have free will. And finally, what evolved was people in Europe. And there is the genetic makeup also had went through a state of evolution, because even though the African has no gene of the Neanderthal, Europeans has that gene. That gene of the Neanderthal, as dangerous and ruthless as it is necessary for the African to do what it was supposed to do, and that is walk into the fullness of Elohim. So it had to create in its image and its likeness. So how did it do it? The image and likeness of the African is not just the body. It's not just the melanin. Included in that melanated body is righteousness, peace, etc. Included in that melanated body, that melanated energy, is the what we call the Akashic consciousness. And having that Akashic consciousness available because of the melanin, non-melanated people struggled. They didn't struggle. Well, they were antithetical to righteousness, peace, and etc. and joy. And as rather than take the teachings that the African offered, they began to rebel against it and kill the ones who brought it to them. And when I say take advantage of, I'm talking about living in homes instead of caves, cooking meat instead of eating it raw, an effort made to keep the Neanderthal from killing each other and from taking what it wanted, and all these other things that we can talk about that comes from the beginning of the European up to the periods when they did not have any idea of what sanitation is. The African taught that as well. And yet the violence was so pronounced in Europe until the African began to move away from Europe. The main place where it stayed was in Spain. And the Moors ruled Spain for 700 years. But then the Moors were pushed out of Spain because of the Europeans and the Asians who called themselves Arabs. The intermarriage between Europeans or intercourse between Europeans and Asians created Arabs. So now here we are. We have been through slavery. We have been through every ordeal that you can think of. Every effort to eradicate us failed, because if melanated people leave this earth, everything else dies. We are the life of the earth, and we did not realize this because we were what, nice and kind and welcoming, and the violence subdued us. I do not believe that we were subdued by violence simply because we were weaker. I believe we were conquered because it was supposed to be so. If we had not been conquered, then we would not be pushed in a corner to the extent that we began to fight our way out spiritually. And I believe with everything in me, no, I don't believe that, I know it, that the journey to bring humanity to a state of balance just started with us. I believe that. I know that with everything in me. Why? Because there is no way that you could be on this journey and understand with the clarity, or as much as the clarity can be, the cosmic consciousness, and someone defeat you. I know that could not happen. The idea of submissiveness in order to avoid being as violent as the adversary is what put us in the space where we are, and we did not battle it spiritually. Here we are now understanding as we travel this journey that there is more to the sacred book than what we were taught. There is more to us than we ever believed. The reason we were called inferior is because those who are inferior knew that we were not inferior. Though if we were called inferior, yet we were brought into this country, into Europe, as slaves. We were brought there and enslaved for the purpose of teaching them how to eat, how to plant food, how to build houses, how to be iron workers, all the things, all the skills that we see now that we take for granted. Every single one of them came from the continent of Africa. And the reason that we were brought here is for those skills, as well as for the labor, because everyone on earth knew that not only were we strong, mentally strong, what we call academically, but we knew things and we knew how to make things happen. Everyone knew that. So they wanted our skills, but they had to make themselves feel superior in order to keep the lie alive that we were inferior. We even gave them an alphabet We even taught them how to read. And they did everything to keep us from reading. The reason they didn't want us to read is because they felt like we would learn how to deliver ourselves when they did not understand, neither did we, that the Akashic consciousness was always there with us. It was not available to us. We did not have to connect to it. We are it. It is ingrained in us. And that is why we have all of these experiences that we have been calling intuition. That is why we have been creative in different ways to survive the brutality. And we were in a state of physical survival. And during the state of physical survival, generations were born, ancestors were with us, and here we are, a group of people who were reared and ingrained in the methods of Christianity in this country, traveling this journey, and now we have been, what you call it? We have been initiated to the extent that we are able now to see things that were always been there, but we were blind to them. There are things that I know I have read, that I have studied years ago, that is coming back to my memory. And I'm sure it's the same with you guys. And right now, we are at a space where the Akashic consciousness is necessary. Why? Because our fate is determined by our desires. And our desires have always been to bring balance to the earth, to end the brutality, to create in our image and likeness, meaning the Mayat, or meaning the principles of righteousness and peace, etc. That's our image that we are to create in. And no one has fought to do this more than we have done it. The people who live on the African continent or in the diaspora could not do it. The Africans on this landmass were the ones who were supposed to do it. And what happened when Europeans came to this landmass, we were here, and they began to erase us and then change the name from African or from children of Babylon to Indians. And then change the whole makeup of the Indians. There were no Indians in this landmass that we have been taught are Indians until after we were here. We were here first. Now, if you look at what was called Indians during that period of time, what you will see are pictures of us. If you start looking at what the so-called Indians looked like when the Europeans came, they paint them a different color. But the reality of it is they look just like us. So now here we are. We are charged with bringing balance to the earth. And the Creator, the Creator has an aspect of Elohim that makes it search for who it is in this earth for the express purpose of understanding that it is the God in this earth. We are Elohim in this earth. in physical form, and it is incumbent upon us as we travel this journey to understand the spiritual nature of our existence, the spiritual nature of our creation, and understand the principles and that we experience in the Akashic consciousness, and understanding that the Akashic consciousness is the reservoir of everything spiritual, but it does not contain every thought of Ein Sof, but every thought of Elohim, past, present, and to this day. We are it in terms of experiencing this Akashic consciousness. That is the reason we are where we are. And we can take this as a sign of the times. And the sign of the times is this: if it were not time for us to bring balance to this earth through spirituality, we would not be having this discussion. Out of all the times that I've heard of Akashic records, I've never, ever heard it discussed the way that we are talking about it, the way that we are understanding it. I've never experienced that. Neither have I ever read anything close to giving understanding of it as we are doing now. There may be individuals who understood it, but we did not understand it collectively. And now we understand it collectively is making more sense to be Elohim, meaning that one yet many. We are one unit of Elohim, yet there are many parts to Elohim, and we see those parts as individual people. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Most certainly.
Yes.
So that's the understanding that I got as from the Akashic consciousness. Questions or comments?
Well, yes, Pastor. I have a comment. When you were, referring to, the Akashic records with regards to how, again, we studied in terms of looking at intellectual illumination as far as being intelligent. But I think that as I begin to understand and look at the Akashic records, and at the same time just being in meditation, our ancestors were not so much, emphasizing intelligence versus the morality of what is the right way, how to live, in that way, how to act in that way. And I think that part of what I'm seeing now is that so much times we strive for, educational intellect, which it has its purpose, but I think more importantly is the morals and the values and the teachings of Mayat, which I appreciate today, because again, I think that that's what, sometimes is indoctrinated to us, is to be, educated in that way for the wrong reason, or the truth not being what it was meant to be in terms of how our ancestors were able to give it to us from the Akashic records, and also from our studies. So I just think that it's important that, we can, grasp the understanding of our morals and our values, because that was the first form of spiritual enlightenment that our ancestors gave to us, was morality. I just wanted to share those thoughts. I'm done.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
There are a couple of things said in the video I like to ask questions about, at least up and see uh, what you guys think of it. If that's okay. Ready to go there right now, or
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, well, Ron, can I ask a question first, if I
of
may?
course.
Pastor, in terms of us understanding this, um, and as we, strive in terms of being able to obtain more spiritual enlightenment, this is something that we're born with in terms of remembrance, in terms of what our ancestors gave us, or is this something again that we have to try to develop or try to create? So I guess my question is, are we born with these attributes? Are we born with this spiritual awareness?
Elohim was free to create, and Elohim in physical form has the same attributes as spiritual Elohim. And when we talk about the Akashic consciousness, it is not available to us at all. We are it. This is the consciousness of Elohim. We were just not aware of it. And we have experienced it time and time again. We have continuously experienced this without even realizing what it is. From everything to understanding when to plant crop, understand how to channel energy, from going out driving and something tells you to slow down, the police is down the road. All of that is the consciousness, every bit of it.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a fortune teller. There's an experience of Akashic memory from the consciousness. And how can you have a memory from the consciousness if you've never had it? If you've never experienced it, how can it be a memory that's being awakened? We have always had it. Go ahead, Sheldon.
You caught on that quickly in my voice. That's smoke. Hello, everyone. This is Sheldon. The thing that I wanted to mention as well, in terms of having access to it, it's not that we have access to it. We are it and it exists because of us. So as if somebody had a biography story about our life, that story does not exist without the life that is actually emulating. So right now, we are, or the Akashic, or part of the Akashic Records is the story of not just the Lamb of life, the story of your life. It is your history. It is you. And it's only the understanding of you, but the only reason that it actually exists, in a sense, or what is actually, I'm going to say only exists, it actually exists as a result of you. So it's not that we have just as much access as that, and even more than you think of. We have access to our very own physical body. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? Let me ask you, is there anyone who did not get a clarity on anything that any of us have said, or any question that we've raised this morning? Anyone? It is, as Barbara said, that when she first spoke, this is an experience. And if there's anyone who don't understand it, and at the same time don't know how to phrase the question, just make an effort to say what you don't understand. This is very important, that we not only hear, but we must embrace the reality of his existence. And now we recognize why we are having the experiences that we have had. Well, I suppose it's clear.
Hope so.
I do too. If you have any,
Grand Rising family, may I share one thing, Pastor?
sure.
This is Kathy. I didn't speak earlier because I didn't know how to say what I experienced because I didn't fully understand until your explanation was given this morning. When I listened to the video, it put me immediately into a state of meditation, a deep state of meditation, so much so that the thing kept playing over and over, and I wasn't even aware because I was just in the flow of the Spirit so deeply that I just was not aware of things around me. And when I guess I'm going to use the term awakened, or when I came back to myself, or however I want to phrase it, because I'm still struggling with how to describe it, I had a deep sense of knowing all things. And I didn't even understand I had no understanding of what that meant, but I knew that something changed, that I now understood that I know all things. Still not, I still can't explain to you other than what I'm saying right now, what that means. But that was the experience that I had. And through your explanation and the explanations of the other teachers this morning, I just want to say thank you. And I appreciate everything that was said because it helped me to get a better understanding of what I experienced and the whole understanding of the Akashic records, even more than what we talked about last week. So thank you.
Well, thank you for bringing that out.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to share? When Audrey talked about the Lamb's Book of Life being a reference to this consciousness, I had never given any thought to that. I have not looked at it this morning, even though I looked at it 1,000+ times. And I can't see anything in it as I think about it, other than what Audrey said in terms of it being the same thing. Just like much of the sacred writings, there was an attempt to corrupt them so that they would say what the people who wrote the Bible wanted them to say. One thing I want to bring up too.
The people that edit the Bible.
Yeah, they edited it. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one. I was listening at. Was it a video or was I reading? I can't distinguish between them right now. But that was an elder in a village on the continent. And he was asked, how is it that the storytellers are able to keep their history alive? And he said, through our generations and through our names. That's why the names have meaning, because it alludes to aspects, not only of that person, but that group of people. And this one man could recite or bring to his memory 50 generations, nonstop. 50 generations. So, so we didn't have to write his history, as much as we are the history in our memory. And I think all of us, especially people in my age group, have experienced storytellers in the communities, people who remember and talk about their experiences. And all of them were not bad. And I use that word bad very loosely, because if it were not for enslavement we would not be here doing what we are doing, in spite of all the suffering. Something else I noticed too, we're in the midst of our class reunion. And last evening, we were talking about the tiger. And I said, have you not noticed that most Southern Black schools had animals that people would say out of a zoo as their mascot? And have you not noticed that a large majority of Southern African schools, Black schools, had purple and gold as their colors? A huge amount of them. Why? Royal purple and gold were signs of royalty. And that is a memory that we have about royalty. That is a memory that we were expressing without knowing what we were expressing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Think about it. The pride that we had. You can't explain that to kids now. It's a difference. It's a difference. Go ahead, George.
No. Go ahead.
I'm there. Well, I'm only saying that to bring us to a space where we can recall things that we took for granted or did not pay much attention to. But now we see it was a continuation of a storytelling being told that kept us in a space of dignity, knowing that regardless of how people treat you or what they say about you, it doesn't mean that that's who you are. And that's one of the things that we lost with assimilation. And now we are recovering it and bringing it to the mind of everyone who receives from the macro. Right?
There were a couple of things when you and George were talking earlier. You kind of hit it on the head. There was something I read in one of the books that either you or George gave me that talked about you dying and your soul being as light as a feather, and it, it would be determined whether or not based on the deeds that you had done. And that spoke to me because they looked at that happened during your lifetime, uh, and it had to be from the Akashic records. What that also says is whatever your fate was, you were not surprised by it because you were familiar with the Akashic records and you have known what your deeds were. So whether your soul is light as feather or it is not, and there's another fate for you, or there is no surprise by you because whether you on this side or that side, you were familiar with what you do, and that this was being recorded or this was being kept somewhere that you would see your deeds again. Does that make sense? Because when I first read that, I didn't know about this portion of it. And it's almost like, okay, I die and things like, did I that right? That was not my intent. But you know what your intent was when you do something. So that's what that's what that was saying is you are if you are familiar with this spiritual side of yourself, you are familiar with where you are at time of death, that know what your deeds are. I just thought that was kind of interesting. Or it made me about that when I listened to the video.
That was talking about, that was in Kemet. And
Yes.
let me see if I'm remembering it right, George. That was talking about being measured against Mayat. Your soul being, am I right,
Yes, yes.
Nicholas? Oh, I see you bowing your head. You want?
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead, Nicholas. I'll follow up.
Oh no, yeah, you're right.
Okay, George, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna, say, when it comes to us being able to appreciate, the Kemetic and our Kushite, teachings philosophy, when it talks about your heart being lighter as a feather, I think about it in terms of how, we were taught about, again, the resurrection or salvation, but then looking at it from the Kemetic and Kushite teachings. And when we look at, the principles of Mayat, or when we look at the 42 laws, I mean, there are some other um admonitions or laws that are given to us that even gives a deeper desire to appreciate what it means to live by the laws. I mean, like we have like I say, the 10 Commandments, that we've all been taught. But I think that there's some other uh laws that when you read the 42, you give it much more deeper thought. And I think that's a part of, again, the Akashic Records when we talk about information that's there for us in terms of being able to appreciate the journey that we're on. So I don't know if that resonates, but definitely to me, it helps me to truly appreciate some of the other laws that were stated, from our ancestors. I'm done.
When you say Ten Commandments, the Ten Commandments were handpicked
Mhm.
from Mayat to tell the story that they wanted it to tell, as opposed to um, the principles of Mayat being um, brought from Kemet into the story of quote unquote Christianity. And if we read the and I keep referencing this, the what is it? The skirmish between this, what is it? It's not a caustic. It is, anyway. I'll think about it eventually. If we read about the schism, you will see that Rome wanted the Christ to be a man. The Africans said no, it's spiritual. Rome wanted the Ten Commandments. The Africans said no. Why? Because of the principles of Mayat. So Rome chose the ones that would tell the story they wanted to tell. And that is so with everything in the scriptures. The book that Audrey mentioned, that book of life is described by Rome as being a book that only God has access to. But the book of life, when we talk about it from the Kemetic standpoint, is speaking about your soul or your heart being weighed against the feather. It speaks about you understanding, you knowing right from wrong. That's the simplest way I can put it. You know right from wrong. If a child did not know right from wrong, then why is it that that child has never been told not to touch that vase? And that vase is broken, and the child is afraid, or the child hides because the child thinks it's going to be punished for breaking it. Who told the child that? Who told the child that? That's a consciousness that we were born with. And because of the way the sacred book has been manipulated, and because of the way that African spirituality has been manipulated into being exercised in academia, because of those things, that child is quickly moved away from the embracing of its consciousness that it was born with. And we instill in that child a consciousness of the earth consciousness. And that is done when we were told you got to go to college to get a better job, you got to integrate, you got to do all these things. We were told these things, and we bought them. We bought into them because they came from the people we trusted. And the people we trusted bought into them because it came from people that they trusted. And you go through generation after generation, and then you will get to this generation. You will get to the generation that said, if we are to survive, we must embrace this. But it does not mean that we are less than who we are. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And here we are now saying, we did not go contrary to our Creator. That didn't happen. It was for survival. Why survival? To survive until a generation was born that would take a stand instead of embracing Christianity for a lifetime and passing it on to others. I have books, Christian books, that I have in these, the plastic thing tubs. I have about 4 of those, and all of them are going to the trash can. I don't throw away books, I don't burn books, but I will not pass those on to anybody. Why would I pass a lie on to other people? Because we are that generation who has seen through. We are that generation who functions behind the veil in the place of the Holy of Holies. And this consciousness has given us a sign of going ahead, continuing the journey. Stay behind the veil. The veil has been torn for you to see. Stay behind the veil and have your experiences behind the veil. Because when we talk about having our experiences behind the veil, that curtain represents the hymen of the female. And the hymen is torn. When the hymen is torn, birth takes place. So can take place. So what I'm saying is that when we are behind the veil, we are in the womb of truth. We are in the womb of femininity. And as long as we function from behind the veil, then our thoughts will be spiritually virgins, in that we've not had them before. We've not talked about them before. They have been there. The affinity for life is always there, but we did not know which seed to carry behind the veil. And the seed of desire is what tore the veil for us. The seed of desire is what penetrated the womb of femininity for us. The seed of desire joined with the seed of with the egg of femininity, and now it has brought into existence a reality as to who Elohim is and how Elohim functions in these bodies. It has brought forth a reality that there is no space between the water in our bodies and the breath that we breathe. Both of them are interconnected. And without them, there is no life in this earth. Therefore, those of us who live behind the veil have opportunity on a continuous level to bring life into this earth, to make sure that there is a continuous infusion of spiritual life in this earth, so that we can ultimately bring balance to humanity, and we can dispense with this madness that we are experiencing and have experienced ever since the Creator, ever since Elohim, ever since we were brought into this earth millions of years ago to create in our image and likeness. And I have never heard anyone talk about creating in our image and likeness until we talked about it. And understanding that image and likeness is not what you look like physically, is who you are spiritually. It's your mindset. It's the way you think. It's the way you process. It's the way you interact with each other. That's the concept of us being the source of life in the earth. I'm done.
You guys are all over this, but a couple of things that came up in the video that was very important. One, they talked about karma. Been taught that karma is something that's negative. You deserve this, or this is going to get back to you for doing this or that. This is something that you deserve to happen to you. But it talked about karma as being something that's not complete, something that you need to readdress, something that you need to go back. And this can up to the video, this can go from generation. You may have done this thing in a different life, but you to address it here. And it got the negative feelings from us because it's usually something that we don't want to confront, or something want to try to forget or hide. That thought was very important. The other one, you guys are all over this as well. We have talked about consciousness for forever a day. And my view of consciousness, I've looked at it, kind of simplified it to think consciousness is those things that you're aware of and those things that you value. Or just and of course it's a lot deeper than that. But what the narrator alluded to is consciousness includes your thoughts, your dreams, and your memories. And I thought that was important because I had never kind of expanded to include all of that. So I didn't know if you guys had noticed the things or what you thought of those.
Yeah, those things are the concept of karma is very much a universal spiritual and metaphysical uh, concept and component of what reality is. And it is yeah, it's not a punishment, but it is dealing with things that we have to deal with in order to complete the purpose for which we come here in the physical experience in the first place.
Yeah.
And as far as what consciousness is, yeah, it's everything that you are as a being and everything that is contained within the being that you are is a part of your consciousness, your conscious identity. We may be unconscious of a lot of it in the sense of the distinction between what we're conscious of and unconscious of, or consciousness and subconscious. But in terms of the identity that we are, spirit, consciousness, identity, mind, capital M, they have slightly different connotations, but they are all the same thing. It is the being that we are. And the
Yeah.
being that we are fundamentally is a being of awareness and mind and consciousness. And the process of spiritual evolution is one by which we learn to become more aware of those things that are present within our being and identity. And at any point during this process where we have basically introduced sort of blockages or potential things that make that process more difficult, we have to learn to unblock them, to untangle ourselves from them. And that's part of what karma is.
Yeah. I like that. Thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello, everyone. Can I say something? Can I say something real quick?
Of course.
Hello? Okay.
Hello.
I was just
Yeah.
thinking, like when we were talking about consciousness, I'm pretty sure everybody has looked for a car before, right? And or was thinking about buying a car, and every time you roll down the road, you'd see that car. You'd see it everywhere. You probably wouldn't like until when you decided, oh, I want this car, you would see it everywhere. Before then, you probably didn't even recollect even see it. But once you like something you like, you would just see it everywhere. And I think when it comes to like we were talking earlier about when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and talking about karma and things like that. And I feel like we've come to a place where we are at a place where we are not looking outside ourselves for the things that we know that we need, and being forced to look within and realizing that everything we're ever gonna need is inside of us. And when I think about karma, I think about, you know, me and Pastor were talking a couple of days ago, and I was saying it was times when I would go through the same stuff over and over and over and over and over. And I'd be like, why is this happening? It was because I was for the creator, or I was for, not even saying the creator because that's outside of myself. I'm saying the creator because we're one. We're forcing me to conquer this or to fix this so that I can move on. Because this other stuff I need to continue. And if I don't fix this, I'm gonna keep facing the same stuff. And once I fix it, and once I learn what I need to learn from it, I'm gonna go on to something else. And I feel like that is when the teacher shows up. Okay, now I'm ready. I'm ready to learn something else. Now here comes the teacher within me to show me something else. And I was reading something earlier this morning. It was talking about sitting in silence, and it said that scientists have been studying, and they've shown that just by sitting in silence, you can cause your brain cells to regrow. And I was like, that's kind of crazy. That, like, basically they're telling you to disconnect from all this foolishness around you physically, and your body will start to heal itself. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, if we just by sitting, and that goes to what we're saying, like when the Akashic Records, like the Akashic Records is not nothing you can run to the library and flip through. You know what I mean? It's something that you have to trust that it's gonna come from within. And that is in a world that everything around us is trying to you know, to spark our five senses and our five sense reality. Like everything is trying to hit on that, and this is forcing us to go within. And I think that's important. And at the same time, everybody's experience will be different, but at the same time, everybody's experience is bringing them to one place, to know thyself. And you know, and I feel like, you know, where we are, I feel like it's a great place to be in. And at the same time, I feel like it will make us, you know, when we talk about shadow work, there's aspects of ourselves that we push down and we suppress that we need to embrace and either change or embrace and realize, okay, this is what made me like this, or this is what brought me to this place, and then move on so we can learn and continue to and continue to evolve into who we were meant to be.
Good example, Don, when you were talking about the car thing, because that's usually looking at car in our uh, immature state. That's what the narrator was saying. You end up asking yourself, why is this happening to me? Instead of saying, what does this teach? What am I to learn from this? So a lot of it was interesting because a lot of these concepts, a lot of things that it pointed out, we had addressed before, not knowing, to put a name on it, what we had discussed, but it just confirmation to me of what we do has a lot of truth to it, has a lot of energy to it, doing the right thing for mankind. And like I said, when I got on this was very exciting to me. Anyone else before we?
The video that I sent you guys,
Sure.
I got it from Don.
Okay.
And I know he's on, but I'm gonna say it myself. He went through several videos, from what I understand, before this one stood out. Same experience that Catherine talked about. Feeling and being in a different space spiritually is what caused him to choose this one to send to me. And when I saw it, I'm like, okay, Don, you might know a little bit. and I made sure that all of us received it. So, thank you, sir.
Thank
Can
you.
I say one? Can I say another thing?
No.
One of the things I was reading, and I read it somewhere, and I actually saw it on the video. But the one thing that stood out in this video, because I was telling Pastor about this one video I watched, it was like 1 hour and 55 minutes. And when I tell you this man stumbled all through this video, I said, there's no way I'm sending this to anybody. I said, there's no way I'm sending this to the video. But the one thing that stood out, he was talking about somebody who was in the 1930s or something. And this man had heard about the Akashic Records. And he said, they were asking him, how did he tap in? Did he go sit with shamans and all this other stuff? And he said that he would lay down and go to sleep and expect to wake up knowing something. And he would lay down purposely with the intentions of what he wanted to know. He would lay down and expect to know it or have a better understanding when he woke up. And for me, I'm a person who, like, Keita will tell you, I ain't really a big fan of sleep. That comes from being in the military. I always associated sleeping with being lazy. And so me laying down, taking a nap was something you would never catch me doing in the daytime. And so for the last couple of days, I would go get on the couch and just lay down, expecting to know something or tap in or to tap into myself. With just to wake up knowing something more than being more in tune when I went to sleep.
Can I ask you a
So
question?
that's it.
Can I ask a question, Don?
Yes.
Before you laid to rest, did you set your mind? Was there something specific that you wanted to know?
Yes. It was. I would set my intentions on what I wanted to know, because for me, it was more I wanted to better understand myself. Because he was talking about shadow work, and when we think about shadows, we've always been taught that there's light and there's darkness, there's good and there's evil. We have a good side, we have a bad side. But knowing what we know, there is no good and evil, there is no bad and good. It just is what it is. It's, what we perceive as bad could be something that will push us to our greater self. And so when I looked at it like that, I'm like, there are aspects of myself that I do not like. There are aspects of myself that, you know, that other people have told me I might need to change, or whatever. And so when I'm gonna lay down, and when I wake up, I want to be better in tune with myself, and I want to better understand who I am. And so I would lay down, and whenever I'd wake up, other day I was expecting to lay down for a few minutes, and I woke up, it was like 7 o'clock at night. And so that's just how I tried to approach it.
Makes sense.
And I think desire is all of it. You know, like the video says, there are many more ways in it, but it's really your intent, your desire.
I know when I was in school, I used to do astro travel, and seances, magic writing. Magic writing was my favorite. And it's funny though, because I would go to the Library of Congress, and that's the only place that I could do magic writing. And being there doing magic writing, I would write about stuff that I had never heard of. It took some time, but once I was able to focus and clear my head, and the magic writing started, when I finished, I just come out of it, and would have written something. One of them was about this lady in another life who was bringing a bottle of water, a clay pitcher of water. And I don't remember all the details of it, but that was the first time it shocked me that I wrote about it, but was able to also go to the librarian and talk to her about what I had written, and she could guide me to a book, that kind of stuff. So I guess I'm like Bob and the rest of you guys. I've been experiencing this for quite a while and had no clue as to what it was, because the church told me that it was demonic. And guess what? And at some point I told y'all it was demonic too.
Yeah.
So, and it was actually demonic for me to tell you it was demonic.
It's okay, you didn't tell me that.
It wouldn't have worked anyway.
But it's funny how things have come full circle. I mean, that's just one example, Pastor, but I mean, all of us can look at something in our life and be like, well, dang, look how times have changed, you know, and just to see, like, cause I remember being a kid, and Pastor we talked about this stuff, and now to see our eyes have been opened, or our eye has been opened, and now we see the truth in it and the power in it. I mean, that's just really amazing to see that.
Yeah.
And reawakening to the reality of all these things you're speaking about is part of the reconstitution of the original Black consciousness of the earth. Like, this is fundamental to being a being.
Yeah.
And it is repealing all the layers of fear and whatever else has just been stacked on top of all of this by, you know, interaction with European consciousness, etc., just natural forces, whatever. And it is very necessary. I mean, it's happening already, but this is the time period where all these things are being revealed. And within Black consciousness in particular, it is so important because that is the, you know, the glue that holds all of the rest of this together, and sort of sets the foundation for everything that comes afterwards.
Well, Nick, I think that's the reason why we needed or had to return to beginning, you know, to be able to, you know, have order and arrangement in terms of being able to appreciate where we are. So I don't think it's no coincidence, but, you know, we're in a divine time of being able to, as a little cliche, they say the proof of desire is in the pursuit. So what are we pursuing? I'm done.
Well, I think the one important thing we've been saying all along And Don said it, and we've said it, when he said the thing about silence, healing and regrowing your brain. But we've said it all along, meditation is, and getting into knowing who you are, that is the only way you're going to tap into the Akashic record. That is the only way you're going to know yourself. And that is the important thing.
Yes.
Making that time to sit in silence so that you can benefit from what that has to offer to you.
And that's what
As Nick always says, meditate, meditate, meditate.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Even I'm not as good at doing it as I should be, although in recent weeks I have been. But we've heard it 1,000 times, be still and know. That is there's so much contained within that we have no idea about,
Yeah.
but are becoming more aware of. Anyway, thank you.
I know we're getting ready to go, but before we go, I want to share an experience, very short experience. I was sitting, putting name plates into this plastic thing, and we had lanyards on it, and I was laying them over the candle on my table that everything sits where I meditate, and that's my candle. And don't you know that that candle fell off that table, and it was not on the edge of it? It fell off the table and broke. And the first thing that I heard inside of me was, don't do that. So at that point, I moved everything off the table. I looked at the table to see if any dust was on it so I could move it too. But that, when that spoke to me, like I knew what it was immediately, because there is no way that it should have pulled that off the table because it was not heavy. And that in itself spoke volumes to me about the presence of the ancestors and the presence of the ancestors in relationship to the Akashic consciousness. It's important to understand because the Akashic consciousness is the power plant, and the ancestors are the breakers in the breaker box that brings to us what we need at that time, as opposed to us trying to pull in the whole power plant at one time and ended up confused or crazy. So the ancestors are the step down. The ancestors are the breakers that gives us what we need at that moment. I mean, I got a 200 amp in the house in my box, but I also have 20 amp breakers in that box that does different things. So I just wanted to share that. That's all. And I'm out. I'm sorry. I'm done, but I gotta run.
Okay.
Thank you.
But before we go out, I want to say I intentionally today did not start the lesson off asking if there were any questions. I thought this was that important that we get into this today. So if you have any questions about what we spoke about today, or any questions in general about past lessons or anything, we'll begin there tomorrow, okay? So thank you. Have a great day, everybody. Enjoyed this, and look forward to tomorrow morning.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Everybody.